Now, this is chapter 18. I have no idea. Of course. If I assume that's supposed to happen. Yep. Okay. Yep. I agree from now on. Yep. If I assume, I guess it's still true. Yep. I don't get around here. Even since, by the way. If I assume. Yeah? Okay. I have no idea. I know, eventually. Of course. I know, how do we find ours? I spooned them before, by the way. Of course. You have no idea. I know, eventually. Yep, where's he at? Wait, oh, wait. Of course. I know, it's supposed to happen. Okay, I'm here. I was gonna make sure to find the rest until we found ours. Alright, of course. Yeah. Okay. So, are you sure you realize that? Yep, I spoon staff from earlier. So, you saw the hedgehog? Yep. Wait a minute. Shaw the hedgehog? Yep. Wait a minute. Tails the hedgehog? Yep. Wait a minute. Knuckles the hedgehog? Yep. Okay. Well, I have no idea what to do now. It's gonna be okay. I spooned a lot, by the way. I guess that's still true. Yep. For some reasons, if I was gonna know. Of course. You have no idea. I know, definitely. Alright, why has spoons done before? And now. Of course. I know, it's supposed to happen. If I assume. Alright, of course. I know, definitely. Thinking around here this much, if I assume, I guess I'll let that happen. I was right for a bit. Yep. How do you know this? And now. Of course. Yep, it does. Alright, I stand corrected. Yep, are you trying to figure this out or... And now. Of course. I know, it's supposed to happen. If I assume... Boy, spent a lot, by the way. Right, of course. You have no idea. I know, eventually. If I was going to assume... I guess that's still true. Yep. Wait, how do you know this? I don't know yet. I spooned that before, by the way. Alright, of course. I stand corrected. Yep. Yeah, if I can see him. Of course. You have no idea. Agree. Yep, I figured out this from earlier. Guess that's still true. Okay. I was getting spoons about that from earlier. It was still kinda obvious if they have to. Yep, for some reasons, by the way. Of course, I was gonna make sure for some reasons. Yep. I was gonna make sure for some reasons, eventually. Yeah? I know, eventually. If I can see him, I guess that's still true. Yep. Okay. If I assume I spooned a bit, by the way. Alright, of course. I know, it's supposed to happen. If I assume, I can't let that happen, Joey. Alright, of course. I know, I stank Whitney before, if I was gonna know this. Wait, you do? Yep. Of course. I know, eventually. I spent a lot, by the way. Wait, you do? Yep. If I assume, I guess it's still true, eventually. Of course. I know, it's supposed to happen. They are around here eventually. Right, of course. I know. I stand correctly, but you can assume, by the way. Right, of course. I know, eventually. You have no idea. I know. It's supposed to happen from earlier. If I assume, I guess it's still true. Yep. Okay. For some reasons, by the way. I guess it's still true. If they have to. Yep. Okay. For some reasons, by the way. It was supposed to happen, right? Not yet, definitely. Of course. If I can assume, I was getting spoons about that from earlier. If I was gonna make this happen from earlier. Wait, you do? Yep. If I can assume, I spooned that from earlier. Because if I was gonna know this, I know yeah, eventually. Right, of course. I know, eventually. If I can assume, I was gonna spoons about that. Alright, of course. I know, I stink already. If I can assume, I can't let that happen, eventually. I was right for a bit. I know. Definitely. If I can assume, that's supposed to happen. Right. I know, eventually. They have no idea. Wait, you do? Yep. I don't get around here. If I can assume, spends a lot, by the way. I guess that's still true. Of course. Yeah? I know, eventually. If I can assume, I guess that's supposed to happen from earlier. Wait, you do? Yep, it was still kinda obvious if they have to. Alright, of course. I know, it's supposed to happen. If I can assume, I guess it's still true, Julie. If I can assume, it spoons a lot, by the way. If I can assume. Right, of course. You have no idea. Yep, agree. Agree. Yep. If you can assume. Yep. Yeah, of course. Yep. You have no idea. I know, definitely. Do you have the Green Brothers? Not yet, definitely.